My Truth actually started in May 2015, when different reports came out about the last Gaza war and kind of summarizing what happened there. Now, as I'm sure you've all read and heard, these reports are basically quite critical about Israel, which is okay for itself, but personally we felt that they were a bit unfair, and because they were missing something that must be taken into consideration before criticizing Israel so harshly. And that was the voice of the soldiers who had actually been there, who actually fought in that war. And especially bothered us was one report by an Israeli organization, our friends, our neighbors, our brothers in times of war. And for those of you who don't know, Breaking the Silence is a political NGO that of ex-Israeli soldiers who share their experiences from the West Bank and Gaza, but only those who support a very specific political agenda. What they did, they took about just over 100 testimonies of 60-something soldiers who participated in that war and shared horrific stories that they experienced in that war. But just to give you a little bit of proportion, in Operation Protective Edge, there were 35,000 soldiers. So these 60 soldiers comes up to just about 0.01% of the soldiers who've been there. So in any circumstances, they can't really represent the way that we fought in Gaza 2014. This report made waves all over the world, and it got to almost every single major news outlet in the world, especially coming from Israeli soldiers, so they got this credibility that no other report got. And for the first time, it also made waves within Israel. So this report was also discussed in Israeli media. So suddenly Israelis were exposed to the work of Breaking the Silence, which most of them have never heard about it before. But as soon as those soldiers, again, the 35,000 soldiers who've been there, read this report, they were shocked and even offended. Their stories weren't heard. Their stories didn't have any platform to be shared. And something very interesting happened. My Truth actually started as a Facebook post written by my friend and co-founder Avichai Shorshan. It's in Hebrew, so and it's very, very small, so I'm going to explain to you what's going on there. But Avichai was one of the soldiers that heard about this report and took it very, very personally. It touched a very sensitive, nerve for Israelis. And he got on Facebook, which is an amazing social platform to share ideas, and he wrote his personal story from the army. And he signed his post by the hashtag #MyTruth. Hashtag is kind of a signature that you use to share ideas wider. And he wakes up the next day, shocked to see thousands of likes and shares and comments. I circled it with red, but you can't see, it's like really thousands of comments. And other Israelis that suddenly decided to use this opportunity and share their own personal stories as well. Now, you must understand, this is something really unusual. Israelis don't really talk about their army experiences, definitely not on social platforms like this one. But suddenly they felt there's a need to share the truth and kind of bring justice for them personally. And it wasn't, the kind of hasbara, or it definitely wasn't for any kind of political gain. It was simply a protest coming from the heart and pain of Israeli soldiers. And suddenly Facebook was flooded by all of these stories. I haven't met Avichai until just a few weeks later. But my Facebook feed was filled with Israeli soldier stories. And also it created a huge buzz in Israel and raised an issue that was bubbling from underground. And at that point we realized there's a real need to create this platform for any kind of soldier to share any kind of experience of moral dilemmas that he personally experienced. A few weeks later, we get a Facebook chat message from the Israeli embassy in Brussels. Can you believe this is the way that they communicate? And it says, hi, my name is, can't remember, I'm working for the Israeli embassy in Brussels, and we have this, the subcommittee of human rights discussion about protective edge operation. Would you be able to come and give your own testimony? Again, we were shocked. We even doubted the fact that it's actually the Israeli embassy communicating through Facebook. But then we realized how amazing this opportunity is. Because until then, there was the only one to represent the Israeli society, the Israeli soldiers, who is not an official body like the government, the government entities or the IDF spokesperson, was only political organizations. And it doesn't matter for what side of the political map they come from. No political organization can really represent the entire soldiers' population. No one asked me who do I vote for when I was drafted to the army. And no one asked Avichai whether he thinks this war is just or not when he got the Tzav Shmona and called to fight in Gaza. So Matan got there and he gave his personal testimony, and as you can imagine, his welcoming wasn't as warm as you would expect.